I've seen people speak to someone who's passed away in their psychodrama, or to their inner child, where they never could connect with that person for whatever reason inside their own mind, inside their own psyche. When it's out in front of them in actual real time, they're able to connect to those things that might have been blocked in the past for whatever reason, and really get a breakthrough and move the energy and feel it in their body and feel okay to process that trauma and that safety.
Partner betrayal is disorienting, heartbreaking, and results in absolute confusion for the betrayed partner. You worry that nothing in your life was real, and you fear that you will never be able to trust your spouse or yourself again. Well, welcome to the Rebuilding Trust podcast with Carol the Coach. I'm Carol Jurgensen-Sheets, aka Carol the Coach, and what I can promise is that when you listen to my podcast, you'll begin to believe that there is hope. We will be hearing from experts all over the world who specialize in problematic sexual behavior, sex addiction, and infidelity. Together, we will be asking them the hard questions about how you both can rebuild safety, find strengths, grieve and mourn what you had, what you never had, and what you fear you will never find again. The truth is that rebuilding trust is possible, and I am going to show you the steps to working together to build a whole new marriage based on the honesty, authenticity, and transparency that your marriage deserves. Rebuilding Trust with Carol the Coach.
Well, Rachel, we worked hard to get here today, and I'm so excited to have you because you are providing a service that very few partner-sensitive therapists are able to provide. And when I heard about it, I said, you've got to come on the show and teach our listening audience why someone might want an intensive. So welcome to Rebuilding Trust. And I know today's show is specifically for partners, correct?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Carol. You know, I have so much respect for you in this field, and it's an honor to be here and with all your listeners.
Well, I appreciate that too, because truly I have always been impressed at your due diligence for providing services to partners in not only a partner-sensitive way, but in a holistic way, an efficient way, a way that can help them in the best possible way. So thank you for everything you do. Now, everybody, I want you to meet Rachel Connor. She is a dedicated professional, and she contacted our organization, APSATS, and she said, hey, I am going to start doing intensives with a lot of work that I truly believe in. I've got it in my Unleashing Your Power. And that is a lot of psychodrama, a lot of Gestalt techniques. Can you tell our listening audience a little bit about your intensives and what you are utilizing to help partners heal?
Yes. So we have been doing men's intensives at our practice for a long time that work with men that are going through sex addiction and doing their own trauma work around that. And we decided this year we were going to launch women's intensives that are partner sensitive and focused on betrayal trauma, as well as other types of trauma that women bring to their stories and to the intensive, but wanted to create a space where women could come together that's totally safe, confidential, and also that could take them to a deeper place than they maybe experienced in group therapy or traditional talk therapy that they were doing. And we'd seen so many men have breakthroughs in these intensives and figured and know that women would want to have a space where they could have those same types of breakthroughs and really start to have some community and do work together so that they could experience release in their bodies, which is what I'm going to talk about in regard to the psychodrama and some of the somatic techniques that we're using and those modalities that can push beyond traditional talk therapy.
I am such a believer of this work. My colleague and I, Christine Turo Shields, we did 2,000 women's groups.
Wow.
And all of the material was externalization of feelings. It was role play. It was it was role play, and it was really an opportunity for women to create what they didn't feel safe doing in a safe environment.
Exactly.
And I happen to know that intensives are really a way for them to get away from their stuff.
Absolutely.
Be around safe people who have all been through the same thing.
Yeah.
And explore together and get everybody's feedback.
Right.
You know, so not only are they using people to maybe portray their family or portray their healing, but they're also getting feedback about how they did and what they might want to do. And so it takes a lot of guts to run an intensive. How long is this intensive?
So I love that you understand this work from a professional standpoint and how powerful it is, and watching women, first of all, set aside some time, because it takes time to really dig into the psychodrama and the pieces of work that we do. So the first day, we like to keep it really small. Actually, the whole intensive is, we cap it at 6 women. So we like to have the first day, all the women there share their stories. They come in, they have we have a safety agreement where everybody talks about, we're keeping this confidential. This is a space where we get to be ourselves and talk about things that we have been through, all the traumas, and that it doesn't leave the walls that we're in. So that's how we kind of contain the space and keep it safe for everybody there. We then move into a trauma egg exercise that day, where women get to name it with pictures on a trauma egg all the different things that have happened to them over the course of their lives that have been traumatic instances, whether that's from their family of origin or in their adult lives, or like early as they can remember up until the present moment. So that's a way for people just to get to know each other. And not only there's a catharsis in just putting that all out on a piece of paper, but also, or on a poster board, but also for them to be able to explain that and say that to the other women in the room is huge, just to be able to verbalize that. So we do that the first day. We go from 9:30 to 5 each day. It's 3 days long. So
and Rachel, I want to just say, I'm so glad that you start that way, because so many of our partners have been through so many other traumas in their life.
Exactly.
And this way we get to some of the women who may even be suffering from complex post-traumatic stress, which means they've had molestations, they've had neglectful parents, they've had date rapes, all sorts of horrendous things that women are oftentimes vulnerable to.
Exactly. And also really never get a safe space to share it. And having someone else just bear witness to that, that's yes, your therapist perhaps, but also another person who's been through it, can have empathy for you on a level that people who have not experienced that just can't. Other friends, other family members, let's say things like that. So even though people come in the room perhaps as strangers, we see as they start to share their traumas and their stories in this space, they become very connected quickly to each other's stories. And that's what day 1 looks like. So then the second day is when we start to the actual psychodrama work, which we have a large room that we set up, and there's a stage in the front. We bring in a woman who is trained exclusively in psychodrama. She's a doctor here her name's Mallory Prim. She's incredible, and she facilitates the psychodrama and she leads the psychodrama. So she starts it off and has the woman that's going to start their first, we call it like a piece of work or a sculpt, and she will help them decide how the room is going to be set up, the props that they're going to use that might represent different things that she's experienced. The other women in the room will then start to be given roles to play, whether it's you're going to play mom, or you're going to play my sister or my friend, or, my shame, or, it can be an actual person, or it can be a feeling or an event. And so these women will play that role. And then myself as one of the supporting therapists, as well as we have some other women therapists who are CCBRT trained and CSAT trained in our practice, that will then double And what that is they'll double behind the person who's doing the piece of work, and might help her along as she's, trying to say the things that she's feeling, and maybe can't get the words out always, but will help to come alongside of her and double. So that's sort of the roles of everybody in the room and how the psychodrama works.
That's interesting you said that about not always being able to put words to it, because what we know about partners, listening audience, is that when a partner has experienced trauma, there's a part of the brain called Broca. And Broca's part of the brain helps to create words and helps to fit together emotions with what has happened. And that is typically impacted. And so really we get lots of partners that come in and they think they're going crazy because they're not able to find the words. They're not able to put thoughts together. They think it's their brain, but it really is how trauma impacts the body, mind, and soul.
Totally.
Now, that gets better. The good news is that gets better.
Right.
The more opportunity they have to feel safe. And so again, being in this intensive creates safety for a woman who may be going through her daily life, but isn't able to really attend to all the pain that she has felt.
Exactly. And just like rooms, like therapy rooms, when you're with your talk therapist, that's a container, and that's a opportunity to practice and be able to have a safe conversation and to feel heard and listened to and all those things. This intensive is an extended version of that, where it's a container and it's an opportunity to practice how to show up, how you want to show up, how even when you feel like you can't, you have the support of the other women there, like you just described, to help get you there, so that it proves to your body and it moves the energy in your body to say, okay, we did that. This person came alongside of me, helped me articulate what I wanted to say and how I'm feeling. And then my body can process that and move that energy that was blocking me so that I can actually do that real time with other people witnessing it. And it's super powerful to see that breakthrough.
I bet. Now that's day 2 or day 2 and 3?
So we do that in day 2. So each person gets a 2-hour block to do their piece of work. And then there's a break where we do, like you mentioned, some feedback and some things that we saw in that person's piece of work. And so we do that in the morning on day 2. The next person gets, we do that in the afternoon. Another person goes, and then we do that on the 3rd day as well. So in those last 2 days, each person is doing their own piece of work, their own sculpt of psychodrama. Wow. And then the other women who aren't doing it themselves are playing the roles and in the room, and then giving the feedback. And then on the last day, we do sort of a goals, going over like all the goals that people have for what it's going to be moving forward, a reflection time, some things that we, encourage each other, close out that safe space, and just talk about getting regulated to sort of go back into their real lives and taking the healing and the things that they learned during the psychodrama.
Got it.
Time together.
Well, and I think about where this work originated, and it really started in hospital settings and residential treatment centers, because again, that was a safe place for somebody to acknowledge and validate their own pain.
Right.
And then ask themselves what I think is one of the most important parts of life. What have I learned? And what do I need to know to live a healthier life? That's really post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I believe you probably feel like these women are so strong.
Yes.
And yet they don't put themselves first to do the intensive work they need to do because they've got kids at home, or they don't want to rock the boat with their husbands, or they might lack funding. I mean, this is not super expensive, but it's not an hour of therapy.
Right.
And so what I would implore anybody to do, if you think you've got some pain that just is not going away, and talk therapy has been helpful, but it has not thrown you into a place where you feel better, where you feel like, well, in actuality, where you've surrendered to what happened to you, you've accepted it, and you're ready to move on. You're making the choice to move on. And intensive really gives you an opportunity to do the work, feel the strength, and again, make that choice.
Yes. And move the energy. I think that's what's so special about what I see with psychodrama is that, you know, let's say, I mean, I've seen people speak to someone who's passed away in their psychodrama, or to their inner child, or where they never could connect with that person for whatever reason inside their own mind, inside their own psyche. But when it's out in front of them in actual real time, they're able to connect to those things that might have been blocked in the past for whatever reason, and really get a breakthrough and move the energy and feel it in their body and feel okay to process that trauma and that safety. And then the beautiful part is having all these other women witnessing it around you that are holding you up and you're scaffolding until you can really let it sink in for yourself and have that support when you leave the intensive and go out into the real world and it wants to shut down again. But having those women, those connections, I think that's super powerful. And it's really special to see when that happens. And that's what I see working so well in these intensives, where then the talk therapy becomes even more effective because I was able to move through some things that I just could not access on my own for whatever reason.
So just a couple practical questions.
Sure.
What's the aftercare like for these women when they leave? They leave your area. Let's start with the first thing. Where do they do this work?
Yeah, so we're right outside Chicago in a northwest suburb of Chicago. So a lot of the people that have done our intensives are right here local in Chicago, and they do have groups and therapists that are right here local that we know, or sometimes it's at our practice. So that's one part. But when we have people that live out of town, we make sure that they're connecting. A lot of them have therapists already, so we're connecting with their therapists. We get signed releases of information so that we can collaborate with their therapist, maybe help them understand what the person went through in the intensive. And then we also always encourage them to be a part of groups in their communities, whether that's therapy groups or some people do 12-step support groups, or all different types of things like that, so that they're plugged into some community. The other thing that I think is really special is we watch people stay in touch, whether they schedule, okay, these are the 5 people that I did the intensive with, and we're going to have a monthly meetup on Zoom, and we're going to connect and make sure that we stay connected. And we, as clinicians, if they're not our actual client, we can't do that as much, but they get to stay together as a group outside of the intensive.
And do they sleep in dorms, or do they get their own hotel room somewhere?
They do get their own hotel rooms, and then the local people, sometimes even though they're local, they'll stay in a hotel just to get away. Or some people, because of, like you said, different situations, kids, whatever, people do go home as well and then come back the next day.
Well, I really appreciate that. I know that one of my colleagues, Heidi Kinsella, she was running Unleashing Your Power workshops and help them heal workshops. And she decided to make them intensives, 3 and 5 days.
Wow.
And some were for couples and some were for partners. And she asked me to come for the Help Them Heal, just so that I could assist her in the very first one. And it was so phenomenal because I knew what was going to happen.
Right.
These people made life changes.
Absolutely.
And they were cheered on and revered by the other group members because they had done such incredible work to shake off the pain, to accept what had happened, to declare where they were going in their life, what they were doing, how they were empowered.
Right.
And so you're a very skilled therapist. And you've got how many other therapists for this intensive?
So we have got Mallory Prim, who is the psychodrama leader. She's the one that does the psychodrama part. And then we have 3 other female clinicians at our practice as well that do participate in different capacities.
Wow. So that really is a big bang for your buck in terms of you got a lot of people and you're keeping this intensive small.
Right.
How can our viewers and our listeners access your intensives? Where can they go?
So they can go to our website, which we will leave in the show notes. And that is, it's at Recover Restore Counseling. So recoverrestorecounseling.com. And if you scroll down to the very end of the bottom of the website, there's a little tab for intensives. So you can find flyers on our men's intensives as well as our women's intensives. So there's a page there where people can sign up with inquiries and then, get them signed up. So our next one is
the next one starting?
Yeah, our next one's coming up on January 22nd. And that will go the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of January in 2026.
So I know you'll welcome anybody from any other country, any other state. But if you are a Midwest girl, I'm a Midwest girl, you're a Midwest girl.
I'm a Midwest girl. That's why I like Carol.
Yeah. Well, and I knew when I saw that phone number, 312, I originally was from Illinois.
Okay.
So I said, I don't know if she's in Chicago or Illinois now, but I'm just excited for this demographic, this part of the country to have these options. And so you're going to be running them throughout the year?
Yes. So right now we have a calendar for the next intensive, obviously for women, is coming up in January. And then we are shooting to do 1 per quarter as we progress through the year. So the men's ones, we've been doing them more often. So we have a couple other dates coming up, which you can find on our website for the men's one. And then we'll be adding some more women's dates as we progress through the year. So we'd like to be at like 3 or 4 per year.
Right. And so this is for the partners, but we do know that men really benefit from this work too, in part because they don't tap into their emotions.
Correct.
So they can't get the healing and the change that they'd like. So,
especially with other men. It's
well, really, thank you so much. Is there anything else you can think of that you'd like our listening audience to know?
No, I mean, I think we covered so many bases here. My heart is, I love watching people heal in front of my eyes. It's one of the gifts of being a therapist, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this work. And I've done it myself personally, and it transformed my life in so many ways. And then to be able to do this now professionally is a real gift. And I'm so grateful for it. And learning from people like you, Carol, that have paved the way has been one of the best things I can even think of in my, to have in my life, of to have people like you who write these amazing books and understand, that give us the resources that we need to help so many clients heal. And I mean, your work is so important and so helpful, and we cling to it as a guidebook to help women heal, men heal. I mean, trauma is real, and it affects us whether we want to admit that it does or not. And so whatever kind of trauma it is, I would just challenge you, encourage you to just reach out. And if the time's for you, the time is for you. And it's a real gift to yourself.
Okay. So Rachel said it best. She said she would encourage you to reach out. And I believe you don't have to commit, but you should reach out to see what the programming is like. I know this is a very skilled therapist. I know about the trauma egg. I know about telling your story. And I certainly know about this work. Every group that I've ever run has had this kind of work because it by far is the most effective of any group work known to women. So think about investing in yourself and investing in really a small period of time to make changes that you've needed to make, but probably haven't made time to make. It's all about self-compassion, and that's what Rachel is doing here. So Rachel, thank you so much. It'll be in the show notes how they can get a hold of you, and you can always reach out to Carol at carolthecoach.com if you need more information than what we've got available to you. Really appreciate you, Rachel, and
You, Carol.
thank you so much. All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.